All right, the Utah Jazz get blown out by the Dallas Mavericks, but there's some things to talk about. One, Collin Sexton is the best shooter on the Utah Jazz. Let's talk about it. It's the Hoops Nerd Show. All right, guys, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks, with promo code HoopsNerd. You can go to prizepicks.com and they will match up to $100. It's a blast right now, guys. And basically, right now with the Jazz, not super interested in winning games, more interested in developing players, you can win easy. If you bet the over on a player's points, you on the opposing team against the Jazz, it's going to be easy money for you. And with the Jazz regularly resting different players, you're going to find little advantages every night. Like tonight, John Collins doesn't play, which is for sure a night to get the rebounds for Walker Kessler. So go to prizepicks.com, use promo code HoopsNerd, and they will match up to $100. It's a lot of fun. You will enjoy it. All right, let's talk about the Jazz. Let's talk about what happened in this game. Some real frustrating things if you're a Jazz fan is in terms of just, there was some officiating stuff that was bonkers, absolutely bizarre. Sometimes I want other fan bases to know what it's like to be a Jazz fan with some of these things, because you just don't know what it's like to be as angry at the refs as Jazz fans have a right to be. I think Andy Larson did a study once upon a time, like 5-6 years ago, where he looked up how many calls went against Utah in the final L2M report compared to other teams, and Utah was literally in last place in terms of having calls go their way. So anyways, I just wanted to get that out of the way. It's frustrating. As Jazz fans, you have a right to not like officiating. It comes with being a Jazz fan. It's just part of it. All right, we're not going to talk about that anymore. There's something we've got to talk about as Jazz fans, and it's time to just start looking at the reality of what this Jazz team is. This last part of the season, post All-Star break, has been a time for the Jazz to evaluate what we're seeing, to make decisions for the long term. You can't overreact to single games, but you do have to accept some realities. And I'm going to pull up some things here to just show what I'm talking about. Here's some things we've learned. In fact, let's just go over this. By the way, Taylor Hendricks showed us tonight that he is an incredible prospect and has a chance to be quite the game changer for Utah. I was listening to the Hoop Collective, who, by the way, was mirroring some things I wrote about a week ago. I'm going to do a video on it and, talk about the things I did, probably expound. But he mentioned that the Jazz look at him as like a Robert Covington, like a super Robert Covington. I don't like the comparison because Taylor Hendricks is a better athlete and is a better defender, and I think he has potential to be a much better shooter. Tonight he goes 1 for 3, 33% from 3, but we know from college he can shoot the ball, and this 3-point percentage is just going to get up. Not a lot else to say. I do love that they had him guarding Luka Doncic, and what's exciting is that guarding Luka Doncic, which is a really hard thing to do, he ends with 5 fouls. That's going to happen when you're going against Doncic and, how the officials do things. But 1 steal, 2 rebounds, didn't have a block shot. I felt his defense was game-changing. He made some nice plays. Deflections that don't show up in the box score, but they do show up in the advanced stats. You're going to see Taylor Hendricks. His deflections are always going to be up there for Utah in the future. You're just going to see those go up and up and up. So really nice to see Taylor Hendricks, what he's doing. He is an impressive prospect, just an absolute physical athlete. And it's one thing I noticed in this game. I mean, it's been like 3 or 4 games where the Jazz are having teams just dunk on them, and the Jazz are on the bad side of a highlight, it seems like, every single night, and it happened again tonight. But Taylor Hendricks, to me, that's one of the things I'm noticing in these games is the Jazz just need big, imposing athletes of their own that can just, is there a player on the Jazz that can go dunk it on Luka and just, dominate him physically? They don't. There's not one, except for possibly Taylor Hendricks. And he's a guy that I could see it. I like the attitude. There's times where you can see that attitude with him, and I want it. I need it in my life. I want to see some Taylor Hendricks dunks, and I think we're going to see it at some point. Like, he can get up there and he can throw it down, and I want to see it. He's pretty slight of frame, but once he gets some strength, we're going to see some of that. In fact, Magic Johnson on the night, and Bill Simmons talked about this. Go listen to it. It's great. He gave his all-time dunkers and talked about these ferocious dunkers who, best in-game dunkers. And obviously Anthony Edwards, and Magic Johnson tweeted it, and it was an interesting tweet, which is pretty surprising for Magic Johnson, but he said that Anthony Edwards is the best in-game dunker in the league right now. And I think I agree, because he's so physically dominant. He's very Jordan-esque or Dominique Wilkins-esque in how he does things. In fact, Dominique Wilkins might be a great comparison for Anthony Edwards in how he plays. Just that similar, just ferocious, physical, dominating style. And the Jazz just don't really have someone like that. They might have that in Taylor Hendricks, but who else on the Jazz is going to go out and just posterize someone? In fact, is honestly just now talking it through with you guys live. Isn't that kind of a measuring stick of if you have enough athletes on this team? The Jazz just don't really have someone like that, really. I mean, we've seen Keontae get up there, but Keontae's more of that kind of Kyrie Irving style player a little bit. Taylor Hendricks is more kind of that physical specimen, that big, long athlete that could do that, But who else on the Jazz is doing it? Walker Kessler doesn't have the mentality for it, it feels like. He has the size. He could if he wants to, but sometimes I'm like, do you want to cram it on somebody? Don't you want to get back at them? When they dunk on you and mean mug you, don't you want to dunk on them and mean mug them back? That's what you want to see, right? And so they just don't really have that guy. Collin Sexton 100% has that attitude. The issue is Collin Sexton is 6'1". But Collin Sexton is the focal point of this show tonight, because I want to talk about Lauri Markkanen, and then I want to talk about Collin Sexton and some things that I think Jazz fans just take as a given, or just assume, they just accept as gospel truth. And you need to analyze what you're thinking about and what you're talking about. I'm a little fired up about this because, sometimes I think that as fans, we fall in love with guys. We have certain concepts we just believe are the gospel truth. And then, the numbers sometimes tell you something else. Lauri Markkanen tonight went 6 for 20 from the field. He did go 8 for 8 from the free throw line, but he had 21 points. It took him 20 shots to do it. And that was with 8 free throws. He goes 1 for 9 from the 3-point line with 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. Not horrible, but certainly not great. And the big debate right now, and this was about, go to the Hoop Collective. I shared it on my Twitter. It was a clip from the Hoop Collective YouTube channel, but you could probably go search it. It's Hoop Collective, Should the Jazz Rebuild? I wrote about something the other day that received a lot of replies and a lot of tweets and a lot of little tweeters from other little cute little blogs disagreeing with me. Well, guess what? This was the game against a very good Dallas Mavericks team. The Jazz needed him because the Jazz were close in this game. Even at the end of the game, the Jazz were down, 9 points at one point with 4 minutes left or whatever it was. He goes 1 for 9 from 3. And guess what? These are all catch and shoot threes. These are the type that you should be knocking down. These were the type of threes that Donovan Mitchell, ate on, because he wasn't a very good pull-up three-point shooter for the Jazz to start, but he was an absolute high-level catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. That's where Donovan Mitchell made his hay when he was a rookie and when he was first starting for Utah, and then the pull-up three-point shooting caught up with it. But this has got to be better. These were a lot of these were open threes that just don't fall. Lauri Markkanen did not make the All-Star team this year. And this is not to rag on Lauri Markkanen. I think Lauri Markkanen is a great offensive player. But we have to be honest about what he's great at and what he's not. Okay? And what he's great at is catch and shoot threes. And so one thing you should depend on him to do in games like this, and by the way, I understand also the Jazz are not interested in winning these games. They want a better pick this year. It's the right thing to do. And they're probably, and if they're smart, they should be less interested next year than they are this year about winning games. And we got to discuss that a little bit too. But if your best skill is catch and shoot threes, the Jazz need you to knock them down. They need it. They needed it tonight. The Jazz could have won this game if Markkanen knocks these down. He took 9 of them, and a lot of them were good shots. There are different types of shooting, and you've got to take context into what you're looking at when you're evaluating a player, especially if you're looking at paying them max money with a higher cap. The cap is going up. You have to be careful. And the way they've set up the CBA, you get 2 maxes. 2. Okay? And you have to be smart about how you're spending your money. You can't just give a max to someone because the overall consensus is you should. Should we be giving a max to an all-star player? There's 24 spots. And I get that you've got to give your money to somebody, but are you going to give max money to Lauri Markkanen, and then 3-4 years down the road, are you giving max money to Taylor Hendricks? Are you giving max money to Keontae George? Are you giving max money to next year's draft pick? You can't give max money to everyone. You have to be smart about the contracts you're doing. Now, maybe Lauri Markkanen won't take max money. Maybe he will be, he'll be like, I want to get the right amount, but I'm not worried about being a max player. And that might be the most ideal situation, just especially considering the skill set. But there are just some real facts here we need to look at. These are catch and shoot threes for the Jazz. And this is just the Jazz. By the way, I wanted to say this. Collin Sexton is the Utah Jazz's best shooter. He's their best shooter. Flat out. That's what the numbers say. That's what the eye test tells me. He is their best shooter. He just is. Look, let's go look at 3-point percentage overall. Collin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen. Let's just look at overall 3-point percentage tonight. And this is this season. 23-24, Collin Sexton is shooting from 3 40.2%. Okay? Let's go to Lauri Markkanen. Sorry, I'm hyped up tonight. Let's see. 23-24, 3-point percentage, 39.2. Collin Sexton overall from 3 is 1 full percentage better. And if anyone on Twitter wants to adjust your numbers and round up, go ahead. But as of right now, 39.2% for Lauri Markkanen, 40.2% for Collin Sexton. That's just a fact. In fact, Collin Sexton's having his best 3-point shooting season since his rookie year, which was his best. Collin Sexton's having a great season, by the way, a great one. Despite all the losing and despite a rough start, it's crazy how he can be so efficient. But what's really nice about what Collin Sexton does is he's found to be effective in other aspects of his game. In fact, I'm just curious, what are his... Yeah, look at this. He is averaging career high in assists. He's almost at 5 assists per game now at just 2 turnovers. He is having a higher assist percentage and a lower turnover percentage of his career. He's not having the highest steal. That's interesting. Look at that. Lowest turnover. Oh, last year he was 1.8. So second lowest season as far as turnovers, 4.8 highest assist rate and highest assist total per game of his career. He was at 50% last year. He's at 49. That's creeping up. Look at that. That is getting better. He is right around. He's having almost a 50-40-90 season. 49.3, 40.2, 86.2. It's too bad he can't get his free throw to 90 because he is right at that kind of 50-40-90, which is pretty crazy, actually. Lauri Markkanen this season, he does have it in overall field goal percentage, although actually, look at that. Collin Sexton is a 49% from the field. Lauri Markkanen from the field, 47%. Lauri Markkanen's 7 feet tall. Collin Sexton is 6'1". 3-point percentage. Markkanen's 39.2 compared to Collin Sexton at 40.2. Yes, Collin Sexton's taking 4.2. Lauri Markkanen is taking 8.0. So he does take more of them. But then I would argue, isn't the offense set up to get him those shots? Doesn't he have the green light of green lights of anyone on the Jazz? In fact, at the beginning of the year, Will Hardy was talking about how he's their best player. He should get more shots. So everything they're doing is to focus on getting him the ball. Keontae George, you'll watch him. goes out of his way to do that. He is trying to follow the offense and what the coaching staff wants him to do. Like there was one play today where Markkanen was in isolation, and it was a good play. And this is not to rag on Larry Markkanen, but I'm just being honest about some things here. Keyonte George sets him up in the post, and Markkanen scores. Markkanen is a really good player. A really good player. But you're going to run into problems here if you're giving really good players all NBA type money. Okay? That's where you start running into serious problems. Just ask the Atlanta Hawks, who had to give us John Collins, who they gave him $20+ million per year. John Collins, the highest paid player on the Jazz, because they were giving everyone max money or close to that type money. And then guess what? No one would trade for John Collins at that point. They couldn't find a trade. So Utah got him for nothing. A second-round pick that's not going to convey. All right? You start giving players money that you can't. With the CBA getting tightened, getting worse and tougher, the better teams in the league aren't able to go over the cap. They aren't able to use their bigger markets that give them bigger money to their advantage anymore. They took that away. They took it away. So if you give max money to Larry Markkanen, and if he's like a 39% three-point shooter, I mean, good luck on being able to find someone who can make that work, because they have to match the salaries. Nathan Butnett, it seems like Coach Hardy's comment the other night has affected Keyonte George. Maybe a little bit. I think Keyonte George is exhausted. I think he has no legs. Like, I think his legs are gone right now. And honestly, I felt like tonight was a better shooting night than last night. It was a Sega Baba, which is a second game on a back-to-back. This was the second night. Like, the Jazz just played 2 games in a row on the road, and this was the back end of a back-to-back. So I just think Keyonte has no legs. But Keyonte George afterwards, Nathan also mentioned that he wants to be held to a higher standard by Will Hardy. Will Hardy lit into Keyonte George at one point tonight. I don't know if you guys saw it. He lit into him, and that was after he got in all that. Like that, in fact, I'm just going to talk about that for a second. I was proud of Keyonte at that moment because he had freaking Luka Doncic, Mr. I can't leave the donuts alone, Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic drinks a gallon of sugar a day, Kool-Aid drinking Luka Doncic, jiggly neck Luka Doncic was like having his way, and the refs were giving Luka everything he does. By the way, Luka wrapped around and knocked a ball away, and the refs didn't call it, when earlier in the game, Chris Dunn does a wraparound on Luka Doncic, and they did. If you think they call it the same for both teams, you are incorrect. That is literally, I could pull the tape and show you. Chris Dunn wraps around, cleanly knocks the ball from Luka Doncic, and they call the foul. Luka does it to one of our players, and his big fat body knocks the player, and they don't call it. It's just not called the same. It's just not. It's annoying. And I'll say it because the team can't, because they'll get fined. And, people were talking about Will Hardy yelling at the refs. I don't think Will Hardy cares if they give him a tech or not. I'm excited when he rails at the refs because they deserve to be yelled at. At the very least, when they're doing a bad job, there's no consequences for them from Adam Silver, you limp noodle. That at least Will Hardy makes them feel bad. I hope it gets a rise out of them because they know what they're doing. They know it's wrong. That's why they're not calling a tech. Do you think they'll call a tech if they know that Will Hardy's wrong? Of course they will. You know why they don't call techs when they're getting lit up? It's because they know they're doing a bad job. It's just flat out. So anyways, back to this. The moral of what I'm trying. Oh, by the way, this is catch and shoot threes. Okay. Catch and shoot. This is what Larry Markkanen is best at, right? Chris Dunn's shooting a higher percentage. Johnny Juzang, look at that. 42%. By the way, Johnny Juzang might be a piece for the future. Holy smokes. He might be a guy. Collin Sexton, 44.9%. He is 0.1% below 45% on catch and shoot threes. So if someone wants to tell me, well, Larry Markkanen's shooting 8 a game, how can you say that? Well, you don't think if Collin Sexton was taking 8 threes, he wouldn't be hitting them at a higher percentage? Because look, this is telling me right there. He gets 2.3 a game, while Larry Markkanen gets 7.3 catch and shoot threes more than Collin Sexton. All right? It's not the same. And context matters in all of this. He is handling the ball, by the way, whereas Lauri Markkanen is not. His shots are being set up by the offense. So it is not the same. And despite that, where Collin Sexton is getting the catch and shoot three off of multiple actions, leading to him getting a shot, he's knocking it down at a higher percentage. So it's not the same, actually. It's actually more impressive what Collin Sexton is doing. All right? Now, let's go look at a more difficult shot. So when you go to, let's switch right here. We are going to switch to now pull-up shooting. This is where you're handling the ball. You have a defender on you. You're usually getting a pick. So this matches up with pick and roll play sets. You're getting guarded by their their perimeter defenders too, and taking these shots. So let's go. Let's see. Does it show me Utah Jazz here? I like, one of the things that gets me so frustrated is when Jazz fans just treat things like this is the way it is. While you're tweeting from somewhere else, or I see your tweets saying, I'm not watching the game, I can't watch this team. Well, then don't tell me that some things are just the way they are. All right? Let's see. 3-point percentage here. This is pull-up 3-point shooting. Micah Potter, 100%. All right, so let's max Micah Potter. No, just kidding. Ochai Agbaji, 38%. Look at that. That's an interesting number for Ochai. Should have been shooting it more, Ochai. Honestly, he was the best pull-up 3-point shooter on the Jazz at the time. It took that. Collins, and by the way, that's a subtle tanking move, by the way. I know, like, a lot of people don't like me when here's the thing. You'll find out online with me and SLC Dunk. I'm the villain. This is the Sith. Okay? Welcome to the Sith, where we earn our way to the top. Okay? We have to defeat our masters. I had to defeat Michael. I had to destroy him. I had to take him out in Jedi Sith Force battle. Okay? I had to. It happened. My red lightsaber is in the trunk. Okay? And maybe one other writer will eventually destroy me. It is the way of the SLC Dunk. It is the way of the Sith, okay? You have to prove your mettle in battle. It's why Sith fighters are usually better. Why? Because to get where they were, they had to kill their opponents to get there. That is the way of the Sith, okay? We have to earn our way, okay? It's not like Jedis using their same old nepotism, using that same old politics to get to your way. Nope. In the Sith, we earn our way. Okay? All right. Let's look at pull-up 3-point shooting, shall we? Collin Sexton on the current Utah Jazz roster is the #1 pull-up 3-point shooter. He is shooting 35.2% on his pull-up 3-point shooting. He is #1. Keontae George, #2, 33.8 as a rookie. Impressive stuff. Okay? This is why you should be excited. And this is after him struggling. He is in a slump right now. The last 4 games, absolute slump for Keontae George. And he's still shooting 33.8 on pull-up 3-point shots. And this, by the way, while being guarded by guys like Jaden McDaniels on the Wolves and like their top defenders on this Mavs team. They are 100% going after Keontae. And when Markkanen's going on the floor, they're going after him too. Okay? Watch it. Look who's guarding who. It matters. It's a big deal. When they put Kyrie on Keontae, guess what? He's going to the basket and he's scoring. So next step for him is to figure out how to score on those guys or run the offense, get those assists. My big thing with Keontae is he's got to work on his handle this offseason and then just overall shot making. That's literally everything for every player, obviously. But he's got the potential. He 100% does. I'm so excited to see how his career evolves. And if he's able to improve on those things, improve that handle, improve his vision, improve his playmaking, and then also just the overall shot making. And by the way, overall everything, fitness, can he get in just elite shape where if it's, the fourth quarter, the end of the fourth quarter, he's still going at 100%. He's still going to knock down those threes at a high level. He'll be incredible, guys. He really has a chance. Okay, but this is pull-up three-point shooting. 35% for Collin Sexton. 33% for Keyonte George. Johnny Juzang, 33%. Simone Fontecchio, not on the Jazz. He was at 33%. Chris Dunn, 27%. We're still going. Talen Horton-Tucker, 27%. Talen Horton-Tucker is a better pull-up three-point shooter than Lauri Markkanen. Let that sink in. Jordan Clarkson, 25%. Now we hit Lauri Markkanen, 20% on pull-up three-point shots. He's not a good pull-up three-point shooter, and that is one of the more important shots in the league. So I'm not here to rag on Lauri Markkanen, and but we have to be honest about what he is and about what he isn't. And for people to say we should just max Lauri Markkanen, well, you need to accept the fact that he's not certain things, And I tell you what, one of the things that is driving me crazy, and one of the things we've talked about before with former Jazz iterations, like how many years did I hear people saying, like, we need to get Rudy Gobert the ball more. He's wide open. We got to get him the ball. Well, then you'd give him the ball and he'd turn it over, or he wouldn't make the shot, or he wouldn't dunk it. And he's doing it a little bit better for the Wolves, but it's the same thing. Everyone keeps saying, well, we got to get Lauri Markkanen the ball. Well, guess what? They are getting him the ball. He's taking 7.3 catch and shoot threes per game. Okay? 8 threes per game. They're setting him up. He's doing it. And you know what? It's just not a high enough percentage. I've kind of compared him to Klay Thompson, but guess what? Before the show, I was looking at Klay Thompson's numbers, and they are not the same. Klay Thompson was a 40 to 44% three-point shooter for like 8 years in a row. And those are like all the various types. For Lauri Markkanen to get in that elite level, he's got to be a pull-up three-point shooter too. You can't just be the one, It limits what you're able to do. If you are purely catch and shoot, that means everything has to be set up for you, And, I can't remember if it was on this channel. One of you guys, one of you hoops nerds, who are incredible, by the way, or maybe it was someone on Twitter. I can't remember, so I apologize. But someone made a great point. Lauri Markkanen is a ceiling raiser, but he's not really a floor raiser, if that makes sense. Because he's not handling the ball and running pick and rolls. By the way, he's in the 1 percentile in points per possession for running a pick and roll. It means that it's tough for you to win. You're not going to win a ton of games unless you're adding him to a team that's already kind of established. It's why I think there are going to be teams, and it's why we saw all the reports that Lauri Markkanen was highly valued by a lot of teams. Woj actually told me on Threads, by the way. I don't know if you guys have done that, but the Wednesdays with Woj himself sent me a thread because I asked him, well, how many teams out there? But he said, that's why it's crazy. Woj is just sending messages to randos like me. He said plenty of teams are interested, lots of teams, but not a lot of teams are able to. That's why I think this offseason, it might get interesting, I love Lauri Markkanen and what he does, and if the Jazz give him a max, then I will obviously talk myself into why it's a good idea. But with the CBA the way it is, you give 4 or 5 year maxes to certain players. If they are not a player that you can consider a potential All-NBA player, it might not be a good idea because you may struggle to trade that player down the road if you actually get those other guys or when you start paying all these guys. Because guess what? Keyonte George, if he keeps on this trajectory, probably going to get a pretty big contract, right? If Taylor Hendricks develops in certain ways that make him really special defensively and is a knockdown three-point shooter, those types of guys get paid, especially if they're a game changer defensively, which he looks like. Those guys get paid. And if you go into an offseason and you don't have, the cap space, and you have someone giving just crazy offers to like Taylor Hendricks because they just have open space and they want to add to their team, you might be looking at an issue. You have to handle your cap. And I know some, and I'm kind of ranting here, but I guess that's what the show is tonight. There are a lot of people out there that saying, oh, Lauri Markkanen wants to be here. You don't just throw away players that want to be here. Well, first, can we stop having that argument? I'm so sick and tired of hearing, oh, like Ryan Russillo talked about that. Ryan Russillo, who I can tell you right now, does not give a I can't swear. He does not give two craps about the Jazz, and saying that Lauri Markkanen likes it there. That's why you should sign. That's not why you should sign a player. Guess what? Players sign where they get the most money. Okay? Do you think anyone really cares if they're in OKC or Minnesota or Cleveland over Utah? Do you think it's really more like, I tell you what, when you're in Cleveland or you're in Minnesota and you get that negative 10-degree wind chill next, like the lake effect, the 40-degree Utah winters certainly sound pretty nice. Okay? It's not too bad. A lot of people like it here. There's a reason Darren Williams has a home in Holiday and lives there for major parts of the year. All these different players that have homes here that really enjoyed being here. Darren Williams, who forced his way out, lives here, right? Michael Jordan had a home here in Park City. Don't tell me that players can't like it here. It's so stupid. When you bring them in, they end up liking it. Mike Conley, his wife, was bawling about the trade. Mike Conley wanted to be here. He wanted to stay here. He liked it. Can we stop that? Can we stop that narrative? It's false. It's not true. It's incorrect. You'll go see Darren Williams at Target all the time here in Utah. He likes it. Players like it here. It's fine. Is it LA? Is it Miami? Is it Houston? No, it's not. But guess what? Other teams are losing their players to LA and Houston and Miami as well. Giannis is linked to LA and he's in Milwaukee. Do you think Milwaukee is this destination? Spare me. You know what keeps players on a team? Money. You tell me, if someone's offering you $20 million more than someone else to be in Salt Lake City, do you think you won't, go get your Swig gift card loyalty number ready? Like, are we serious? You're going to Crown Burger. Okay? It's just a fact. But that's the thing. When you're in a market like this, you have to manage your money better or you will lose them. If you're not a destination market, that's just a fact. Because guess what? There's only so many Miamis and LAs and wherever. They all have cap issues. LeBron James and Anthony Davis are in LA. They don't have any room, okay? And if you manage your money well, you will keep your players. Can we please stop the false narratives? Please. I'm begging you guys, please stop spreading false narratives. It's not true. It's not true. You can keep players here. Did Donovan Mitchell want to go to New York? Yes. But Donovan Mitchell is a liar, and he's lying to Cleveland right now. He is going to New York. That's where he's going. You can't help it with certain players if that's what they want. Like, no one was keeping LeBron James from going to Cleveland when he said he was going back. And no one was keeping LeBron James from going to LA when he went there. But guess what? A lot of players stay in their teams if you just pay them and you manage their cap. Do you think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are just in love with Boston? Jaylen Brown has made more subtweets about Boston than Donovan Mitchell did about Utah. And guess what? They paid him and he stayed, and they managed their cap well, and they're going to the finals this year, most likely. Can we just be honest? And can we have some confidence in ourselves? Believe in yourself, Utah. And Jazz fans, believe in you. Believe in what you are. Do you love Utah? I love Utah. It's great. Now, is it the cultural diversity center of the country? No, it's not. But neither is Boston. Neither is Oklahoma City. So if you treat your players well, you pay them correctly, you will keep the players. But what will hurt you in the long run is if you max a player like Lauri Markkanen and then don't have the money to manage your other cap situations better, you will lose them. You will lose Keontae George in 7 years. You will, because you didn't manage your money. That's what happened before with certain players like Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward would not have left the Jazz. And yes, Gordon Hayward, who you would think would be happy in Utah, but why did he leave? Because the Jazz did not give him the right contract when they should have. And I know that's contradictory, giving a max to Gordon Hayward and not to Larry Markkinen. But I would argue that Gordon Hayward in Utah was a much more dynamic. He was an all-star. By the way, Larry Markkinen was not an all-star this year. Gordon Hayward was, and he was the focal point of the offense in terms of handling the ball. You know? 26-6 or whatever it was. He wasn't just taking catch-and-shoot threes. And the Jazz screwed up that cap situation, and he left. If the Jazz had given him a max contract, then they wouldn't have had to give him the contract that Charlotte offered him that he accepted because Utah forced him to. Right? It wouldn't have happened. And by the way, if the Jazz had given him the correct contract, we would have had Gordon Hayward on this team with Donovan Mitchell. All right? You have to handle your situations right. You have to. That was the biggest mistake of Dennis Lindsey's career, to be honest, was that situation. Because you would have had Gordon Hayward and Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. And if you go to the playoffs and you do what you did with what they had with Donovan Mitchell and Ricky Rubio, who, by the way, remember, and I had heard this from inside stuff, this was actually stuff, they traded for Ricky Rubio to make Gordon Hayward happy, and then he left anyway. And so Ricky Rubio and Donovan Mitchell and all that would have been with Gordon Hayward as well had they handled their cap correctly. So you can't just give these things to people without thinking this through. Who is the future of this team? With the new CBA, you have two maxes, two max players. You better be sure who those are. You better be dang sure. Because you run out of money real fast and you start losing ancillary players really quick. And so then you are left with decisions like, I guess the best addition we're going to make is Rudy Gay. Okay? That was the best they could do. Because they had not handled their cap well. We're giving maxes to everybody. We're overpaying everybody. We have no faith in our ability to keep a player. By the way, build through the draft and you'll find out real quick it's the best way to handle your cap. Because you find out real quick who are the ones that deserve the max and who are the ones that don't. Ask Oklahoma City. Look how many dominant players they have. It's not complicated. It's really not. But you start complicating things really fast when you don't think these things through and make sure you're paying the right money. Now, maybe they can get Larry Markkinen for less, but I just don't think they really should be giving a max to Larry Markkinen considering what's going on right now. And the idea that you can just trade him later, well, good luck, because there are certain teams that might not take him and they might not be able to, much like this offseason. We heard that the Jazz were willing to listen to offers, but no one had near what the Jazz wanted for him. They made this offseason. Okay. So anyways, there's my rant. I like all of this to say that Collin Sexton is actually the best shooter on the Jazz. And would any of you want to give a max to Collin Sexton? I think Collin Sexton is fairly paid. I think he is fairly paid for what he produces. He is a value contract and you can either keep him for the future or you can trade him, but he is paid appropriately for what he brings. And there are a lot of teams, I'm sure, that would love to add him if the Jazz trade him. Honestly, he's one of those that's more difficult because his contract's value. Anyways, sorry. I had people like online, like subtweeting me and stuff, and it's fine. But can we actually talk this through and think this through and actually look at the big picture instead of just treating things like, oh, of course we do that. Oh, of course we just do that. No, you have to make these decisions correctly. And by the way, we've talked about this since trade deadline. Since trade deadline to the end of the season is not just to see what Keontae George and Taylor Hendricks can do. They've really shown us a lot. Honestly, a lot. Yes, the percentages need to get better, but they're rookies. They're rookies. Rookies struggle. Rookies get tired, especially point guards. Holy smokes. Go look at Mike Conley's rookie year. In fact, let's just do it right now. Like, I just want you guys to see this and make sure we remember what Mike Conley was doing, because everyone was has talked about how many times we shouldn't have traded Mike Conley. Well, look, rookie year he was shooting 33% from 3. He was shooting 42% from the field, 4.2 assists and 1.7 turnovers. So struggled. And then the 3-point shot just kind of took off, but he had a few years here where it's just in the 30s. And so anyways, we need to like accept that, rookies are going to struggle. They're going to get tired. They're going to have issues here and there. It's just the way it is. All right, can I show you something fun? This was an irregular show tonight, but I just felt like I have to I'm saying like a lot. I have to show the reality of this. The Jazz have some really tough decisions. It is not cut and dry at all. By the way, did you guys see my new logo? Sorry, I feel like I've been yelling at you. I'm sorry, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just yelling in the void. I apologize. Can I show you guys what I want to do with my produced videos? Something I think is pretty fun. I'm gonna have an overlay. It's gonna be an animated version of me showing. It's gonna be like if like Super Nintendo Sports Center was a thing. Let me show you this. I think this is really fun. This is gonna be an overlay to my videos. I'm really excited about it. This is not the finished product, but I really like it. I'm really excited. Look, there's me yelling at the people who watch my channel. Well, look. Ooh, who's who? Twins. Woo! Woo-hoo! I'm really excited. So you see how I'm lowering here? Then you get animated me. So let's take me down just for fun. Yeah, baby. Yeah. And then this box right here, this is going to be where I put the subtitles that read out what I say. And this is where the highlight clips will go. It's going to be pretty fun. So anyways, that's what I'm working on. It's been pretty fun. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to go through that because I just felt like that was important to say. I don't have a lot else to say. I mean, Walker Kessler looked pretty solid tonight. It was nice to see 14 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists. I feel like Walker Kessler is playing better recently, which is nice to see. Like we mentioned, Keontae had his moments tonight, but he's got to have just dead legs. There's only 12 games left in the season, so it'll be interesting to see how that ends, but I think he's honestly out of gas. And the fact that he's just, struggling fitness-wise, I think 18 points, 5 assists, pretty nice. The percentages are not there, though. That's just inarguable. Collin Sexton tonight, I know for all I talked about, he was 0 for 3 from 3, but 9 for 14 from the field. In fact, 9 for 11. He only missed 2 shots from 2-point range tonight. Pretty crazy. And then he also had 5 assists. So 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 20 points as a 6-man. I mean, if he plays all 6-man next season, in fact, my big time, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to be so sad if we do not get Stephon Castle in this draft, guys. I'm going to be so bummed. But I want Stephon Castle in a big-time way for this Utah Jazz team. I want him at the shooting guard position because I think our future 3 is in the 2025 draft. Look at this. Cody Williams is dropping. Stephon Castle's here. Look at this. Jacoby Walter is now down to 9. The Jazz could just go get Jacoby Walter and be the shooting guard of the future, I guess. Pretty nice size for Jacoby Walter. Pure shooting guard. You'd have a Baylor backcourt on the Utah Jazz. Might be kind of fun. But the percentages are not great with him. So you're going to ask yourself, can he get better? That's the question. And if he can, because the way he shoots it looks really nice, the percentages just aren't quite there. If he can figure that out, all of a sudden you got yourself quite the shooting backcourt. But the one thing Utah needs is defense, and that's why I'm pretty excited about Stephon Castle as a shooting guard for the Jazz in the future. 6'6". Look at this. 6 rebounds as a point guard shooting guard. That's like potential triple-double every night. The 3-point shot, the shooting is not there in a big-time way from 3. What I think is interesting, he's on the best college basketball team. I know some teams were upset today, like Kentucky lost. Did UConn play today? They're the best. I think they're the best team in the country, from what people tell me. And Stephon Castle's a part of that. I think he has so much defensive, like two-way player potential is what I love about him. And if he can knock down those threes, that's going to be the swing skill. Because if this goes up right there, they're showing triple minus. Hurts my feelings, Tankathon. Hurts my feelings. Projected NBA three-point percentage 2. But everything else is like winning basketball. Offensive rebounds, blocks, rebounds, turnovers, young, 2-point percentage, defensive win shares. Look at that. And what do the Jazz need? They need better defense. And so this is why I'm excited about someone like Stephon Castle. And he's big, 6'6". I mean, he has like, I don't know if you guys have watched film on him, but he has like he has some physical prowess to him where he's not going to get bullied. He is going to do the bullying. This right here is the swing. His 2-point percentage is great. He can score inside and whatnot. And he has a nice floater. He has nice touch. I'm curious, what is his free throw percentage? 75%. So that would say that he might be able to become a nice 3-point shooter. If he becomes a solid 3-point shooter, you're looking at a potential steal in the draft with how big he is and what he does. I really like him. And Leaf Tulane talked about it. He really likes him. I've heard Tony Jones mention his name, which makes me think that maybe the Utah Jazz like him. Sometimes you got to read those tea leaves. So it would be fun to have the key to the castle on the Jazz, right? Key to the castle. By the way, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars tonight. Thanks for being a part of the show, guys. I ranted for a long time tonight because it gets on my nerves when people just assume things are the way they are. And it's like, if you looked at the numbers, if you actually dived in, and tonight when they needed Marinan, he was 1 for 9 from 3. They needed it, and it wasn't there. And you can't blame the rookies. They're rookies. Now, in 3 years, if Keontae's putting up numbers like this, then you worry. But I think he's going to get to that next level. It's up to him. If he can get there, if he can put up those numbers, knock those shots down, then, man, he has all-star potential. But it's really up to him. Right now, it looks great, and I believe he will. So, let's see. All right, let's see what would happen if the draft was today. Utah loses again, solidifying that 9 spot. What would happen if the lottery was today? Oh, Utah stays at 9, but that gets them Stephon Castle if they want him, or Jacoby Walter. By the way, Ron Holland is someone interesting. I'm just really excited about this potential draft now because I think there's some guys falling. Cody Williams is dropping. He had a kind of a start fall off at the end, but I think he has a chance to really be an interesting prospect. Size and length, shooting, a lot to like with Cody Williams. I still believe. All right, let's give a shout out to our All-Stars. Let's give a shout out to Ryan Perry, the legend, Tim Protector Robach, Nathan Burnett Burkhart, Dirty Jazz Car Wash Channel, Fly Eagles Fly, Platinum Eagles, The Real Deal Lars Jarvinen, Just Buckets JB, Baby Elliott Matson, Christian House Money to Haas, The Outlaw Jesse James Nelson, Ezekiel Raicibe, the man from down under, See ya, Lexa Later, Built for Tough, Alexander Tufts, Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de abajo, Jordan the Goat Best Roll, TGG Total Game Domination, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, KG10 to TH5, DW to CB, Darren Williams to Carlos Boozer, Patrick Kubo the Connoisseur, and Robert Hall of Fame. Jose, you were the one who said it. Shout out to Jose who said it. Shout out Jose. You're awesome, Jose. Thank you for saying it. It was a great comment. Great insight. All right, guys. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. You can also join the channel. Become one of the All-Stars. Get your nickname. Get your name remembered by all who watch this show. I'll talk to you next time.